everybody. Welcome to GH Gospel Radio. This is your show, Let's Talk Marriage. And tonight we're going to talk about communication. Communication in marriage, how to make communication work. And before we go on, I'll just share the link quickly and then we will zoom in and talk about communication. I hope we're all doing great. I hope you had a great week and you're looking forward to another great week this week. Yes. Communication is one of the most important pillars of marriage because nobody is able to read people's minds. At least I know most people cannot read minds. So it's very important that we are able to communicate well so that we are able to share whatever is in our heads as a married couple so that we can be on the same page. But before we go on, I want us to read two scriptures that will talk a little bit about communication. The first one is Colossians 4, verse 6. And I'm reading from my favorite translation, New Living Translation or NLT. It says that let your conversation be gracious and attractive so that you will have the right response for everyone. And the other one is Proverbs 15 verse 1. A gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. So whenever you think communication, let these two verses guide you. Your words need to be gentle so that it will deflect anger, and that your conversation also has to be gracious so that you would know how to answer everybody, and especially your partner in this case. Okay, so I basically grouped communication into three main forms. The first one I would call friendly conversation. And this kind of conversation is the one that you have that is like, this is the one you call chit-chatting. When you're living together with your partner, it's very important that you keep the lines of communication open. And you do this by just chit-chatting. You cannot wake up in the morning and not say anything to your partner. That alone is grounds for bringing some tension into the home. So when you wake up in the morning, just chit-chat with your partner, friendly conversation. Oh, hello, darling. How are you doing? And sometimes the conversation can get so ordinary that you be asking questions like, oh, are you awake? It's all part of it, just to establish rapport with the person, just to keep the lines of communication open. Find something to say, whatever it is. Hello, have you eaten? You can see them eating. You're like, oh, did you enjoy the food? That's just ordinary conversation, nothing much, just so you know they are there and you notice them, just to tell them you notice them. The other one is compassionate conversation or compassionate communication. When your partner walks in looking dejected or looking sad, looking worried, looking angry, it's important that you find out from them. Are you okay? Is anything the matter? Can I get something for you? That kind of communication focuses on the other person. So you try to help the other person out. You don't focus on yourself, and you don't really expect much communication back. You are just trying to help the other person feel better. Because to be honest, if the person is very angry, sometimes people don't like to talk when they're angry. So maybe they'll give you a feedback like, yeah, I'm really angry and I just want some time to myself. So it's like in this kind of conversation, you don't expect much back. You just want to show concern. You just want to be able to encourage the other person. You just want to be the other person's support. So it's a more of selfless conversation. And you need to choose your words carefully, like Colossians said. Let your words be gracious so that they'll be comforting, they'll be uplifting, and they'll be helpful. That is not the time to go and ask questions. or use friendly conversation. The time that somebody is angry is not the time to ask, have you eaten? And all that kind of ordinary words. Choose your words carefully and make sure they are meaningful. Because if you cannot say much that is meaningful, that's okay too. It's better to leave the person alone, let them just process whatever they're going through, and whenever they are ready, they can talk to you. Don't take it personal because, of course, they haven't brought anything up to you. You probably are not the cause, right? So let them have their moment and only be compassionate towards them. The third kind of communication that usually get people into trouble is essential communication. And in essential communication, this is a type of communication that you talk about the big stuff, serious stuff, like your finances, where the kids are going to go to school, how many kids you want to have, where you want to live, the house that you want to get, the car that you want to get, whether or not to go fix that car, whether to sell that car. Important decisions that require both of you to be able to weigh in and have your voices heard. And this is the part where sometimes, no, a lot of times, things go wrong. To be able to navigate this type of communication well, you have to remember to always tell the truth. I've heard stories of couples that are building together, and then one person secretly has a house somewhere. That is betrayal of the highest order. And during essential communication, if you find out that you have to hide something, that would mean that your relationship has a lot of issues going on already. So you need to ask yourself why you're going that far to hide that information, so that if it's something that you can fix or you need to fix, you would better work on it quickly, fix it, and then be able to be open and honest with each other. Good evening, Aman Ponsa. You are welcome. Thank you for joining. Yes, so during essential communication, you need to be honest. You need to be able to say what your true feelings are. And you need to be able to agree on something. If you compromise on something, you should take that decision very seriously. Let's say you decide to move, and then one person wants you guys to move, let's say in January. The other person wants to move in December. Both of you need to sit down, put your heads together. Let's say you come to an agreement that, okay, considering everything at stake, you will both agree to move in July. That is a decision that you've come to. And it's important that after you've taken that decision, both of you make up your mind that now we are moving in July. Don't go back and act like I wanted January, so I would pull tricks and make sure we move in January. Or I wanted December, so when it's time, I'll just dilly-dally, I'll just waste time. And then by the time that we are aware, we are moving in December. Next time you have to decide on something important. If you pull this kind of stunt, next time that you have to decide on something important, your partner will pull out or may do the same thing to you. You realize that your communication will begin to fall apart, and you guys will start having trust issues against each other. It is important that you remember that you are a team. What happens to one happens to the other. So be truthful, and whenever there's a compromise, make sure that you follow through. Okay, so basically, women have conversations just to feel close. Not that just to feel close, but most of the time, when women are communicating, they are communicating for affection, for rapport, just to feel close to you, and also sometimes is essential communication. But what I'm trying to communicate is that most of the time, women will communicate with you about anything just so they can feel your presence or have some closeness with you. That's how women build intimacy, just to get close to you. It's true that you may be talking about the house. And to be honest, if you're somebody who has not been having regular communication with your wife, the time that you are ready to talk about the essential stuff, she may not be ready to listen, or she may come to the discussion with an angry mood. And that does not help. So, as a husband, it's important that once in a while, if your wife just wants to talk, don't shut don't shut her out and act like you're disturbing me with unimportant stuff. I don't want to talk about this. You're talking too much. You're in my space. No. Women love it when their partner is able to just listen to them and then share with them about their day. As long as both of you are talking, women are happy. So, one thing that women would also need to advise themselves or ourselves on is that when you're communicating with your partner, try to also find something that he is interested in so that both of you can enjoy the conversation. Because your goal is to have him talk to you. But if you're only talking about stuff that you are interested in, then he may quickly shut up out of like shut you out of the conversation and move on, or he'll be acting like he's listening to you, but meanwhile he's already zoomed off. He's not hearing a word you're saying. So if you want your husband to listen to you, to enjoy having conversation with you, try to also incorporate some of the things that he is interested in so that it's a balanced conversation and not one-sided conversation about only things that you like to talk about. The other thing too is that women like to vent a lot. When a woman goes to work, things don't go well, she would likely come home and want a listening ear, somebody that they can just talk to and just vent their frustrations and just keep going and going and going and going. But the problem we often see is that men like solution. So the minute the women start talking, they'll be like, this is what you need to do, get it done, and let's move on. Why do you keep complaining about the same thing every day? You come and you talk, 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 and yet you're not doing the things that you need to do. Well, usually when a woman is venting, all she wants it is a listening ear. She wants you to listen. She actually knows the answer to the problem, but she just wants somebody to share it with. I don't know why we do that, but it helps a lot having somebody listen to you. So all you got to do is just be there, be listening. You can be like, oh, why did she do that? Maybe you didn't even hear what she said before. Really? That's really bad. Just say something that'll make her feel better, because she's not really looking for a solution. She's looking for a listening ear. So that will be enough about women, communicating for women for now. Let's look at how men communicate. Men usually are factual. They want to get straight to the point. They want to be able to say what it is, be done with it, and move on. In a way, it's good because you get to make your decisions quickly and you're able to come to a conclusion and walk away. But sometimes you may come across as uncaring. But on the side of women, what you can do is, if you need to decide on something, like we said earlier, essential communication, if you want to talk about something, don't make it an emotional roller coaster. Don't make it a long story. For example, if your husband is having a conversation with you about where to take the kids to school, which school to take the kids to, and maybe he brings up this school and you're not interested, like you don't think is the best choice. Instead of talking about how one of your friends went there and something happened to the child and they didn't allow the child to go home, and then you tell a rambling long story, you can just go straight to the point and say that you don't think it's a good school because ABC. Just bring up your points clearly and quickly so that it doesn't look like you want to tell a story, you want to drag the issue, because that becomes frustrating for men a lot. The second thing about communicating with men, is that for some reason, when you talk to a man like you talk to your girlfriend, most of the time he'll come back and say you are being disrespectful. From a woman's point of view, that may not be true, but to avoid trouble, to avoid hurting your partner, please choose your words carefully, because the threshold for men for disrespect is very, very low. Small thing, they read it as disrespect. Small raising of your voice is going to be read as disrespect. Small looking at. So ladies, it's important that when you're communicating with your man, be more careful about your words, about your tone of voice, because they are easily upset by words. And we said already that keep your words few. Try to bring out your points instead of telling a long story, because the more you talk, the more overwhelmed they become. And this is often related to essential communication when both of you are trying to take a decision. If you keep telling rambling stories and going back and forth, very soon they're going to feel like you're too hard to talk to. They don't want to decide with you. And then some men will cheat by trying to decide and then forcing the decision on you, because they begin to think that, oh, women are not that intelligent. They don't even know what they want. It's because you're telling a long story with what you want. If you really know what you want, prove it by laying it out straight, be clear, go straight to the point, and let him know, so that you can put your other forms, or you can put your rambling stories in the other forms of communication. You can tell rambling stories when you're having friendly conversation. You definitely cannot tell rambling stories in compassionate conversation or communication. But for sure, the time that you're having essential communication is not the time to tell stories and start from a long way about what the issue is. You need to go straight to the point, especially when you're having essential communication or conversation. Okay, so let's look at the ground rules for better communication. This one is both for men and for women. It's important that you don't engage in essential communication when you're hungry, when you are angry, when you are lonely, when you are tired, or when you feel overwhelmed. Let's say you just walked in from work, you are so tired, you are hungry, you've been driving in traffic, you just feel so overwhelmed. And then your partner walks in and wants to talk about something important. He or she wants to engage in essential communication with you. The best thing to do is to tell him or her, I am so sorry, I'm just not ready. Can we please talk about this in the next hour, when I've had something to eat or when I've had a little bit of rest? Because sometimes people don't know what you've been through. They are not in your body. Or sometimes you usually come home happy and rested, but maybe that particular day you're not in the mood. Just let the other person know. There's no need to get angry. There's no need to think that they are mean. There's no need to feel like they are being overbearing. You just have to communicate. Let your partner know that I am so sorry. I really cannot have this conversation right now. And then if you are the one postponing the conversation, it's very important that you set an appropriate time. Let the other person know that I'm not blowing you off. I will come back to this in the next hour or in the next 2 hours or whenever, so that they don't think that, oh, you just don't want to talk about it and they don't know when you're going to be ready. At least if they know the average time in which you're going to come back and talk with them, they'll be in a better position to wait for when you're ready. But if you say, I'm tired, and you walk away, that is absolutely rude and unfair, because probably the other person has been waiting to talk to you about it for a long time. So it's important that if you're hungry or you're angry or you're lonely, you're tired, you're overwhelmed, just let the other person know. I need some time and I will come back in so and so hours, minutes, days, whatever works for you. Let the other person know so that they don't feel like you're blowing them off, or whatever they have to say doesn't matter to you. Let them know it matters and you're going to make time for it, just not right now. Okay, so another ground rule that is important to engage in, that you should never call your partner abusive words when you are communicating. You know, sometimes when tempers escalate, it's easy for you to insult each other. Sometimes situations can get that bad. But it's important to tell yourself, make that mental note, that under no circumstances should you call your partner abusive words. The Bible even talks about it, that if you call somebody a fool, you will answer for it. You need to make sure, delete abusive words out of your vocabulary. There is no situation that will mandate you, that will give you the go ahead to insult your partner or call them names or call them abusive words. That is not okay. That is not right. And that will further damage both of you going forward, because as you've used those abusive words, the other person is going to think about it as they go about their day. They're going to be angry about it. They're going to come back and retaliate. It's possible. Or the next time, they are going to call you abusive words just to pay you back. It's not necessary. There is no use for it. It's absolutely out of bounds. If maybe you've picked up that bad habit from your childhood, or maybe from a relationship that you witnessed, it's time to delete that habit from your life. If you need the Holy Ghost to help you, pray about it. Get it out of your life, because life and death are in the power of the tongue. Whatever you call your partner, she or he may as well become it, because you're speaking that into their lives. No name calling, no abusive words, no matter what the other person said or did. It does not warrant that. The next thing is, you need to be upfront and honest. When you're talking to your partner, you owe them honesty and you owe them the truth. If there's something that you don't like, don't pretend that you like it, so that later on you turn around and do something else because whatever they brought up you didn't like. If you don't like it, be upfront about it and tell the truth. I know people who have kids somewhere, they will never mention it in marriage. And then after a while, the kids will surface at their door, and then it becomes a whole can of worms. Or maybe they went to buy a piece of land somewhere, the partner doesn't know about it. Years later, somebody comes to ask a question or something. You need to be upfront. You need to be honest. And if you cannot be upfront and honest with your partner, you really need to ask yourself why. Then it means there are other issues in the marriage that you may need to work on. So that should be a big sign to you that your marriage needs some help, your marriage needs issues that needs to be fixed. So be upfront and honest, especially with your partner. If you're not going to be upfront with everybody else, at least be honest and upfront with your partner. And if you cannot be, dig deeper, find out why, and fix that. Okay. So the next one is that you don't need to share unnecessary negative stuff. You have to be positive. When you are talking to your partner, if there's something negative that happened years ago, there's no need to bring that into the conversation if it's not necessary. Well, you might think it's necessary, but you need to be sure that as you are bringing that thing up, it's going to affect the conversation positively. Otherwise, all that you're doing is lengthening the conversation and bringing up negative emotions. Don't bring up, it's not all negative stuff that you should share, especially if it's unnecessary, especially if it's not going to help the conversation that you're having right at that moment. It may be something you want to talk about, but if that particular conversation does not need that negative information, leave it alone, because your goal in communicating is to be able to come to a compromise, is to be able to decide and move on. Don't make things harder for yourself by trying to bring in other unrelated negative stuff. Leave it out there, make your decision, and move on. The other thing too is that you should show each other respect. We've said earlier that don't use abusive words, don't call people out of their names, and don't show a rude attitude and stuff like that. This week I read this post online that there was this husband, he's been married for 2 years, and every time the wife would start frowning and not responding to him, and obviously she's angry, and then he would go and ask her, "What's going on?" And she'll be like, "I'm fine. There's nothing wrong." But she would act like that for days. And she keeps doing that over and over and over again. Dear ladies, that is not a way to communicate. And I know that many of us ladies, especially when we are newly married, we do that a lot, because in our minds, our partner or the husband should know what they've done wrong. Let me break it to you. Men's brains, or men, think differently from women. If there's something that he's done, he probably does not even know he did it. Or even if he knows he did it, he's probably thinking there was nothing wrong. And sometimes they are totally unaware. So if there's something that bothers you, the best thing to do, just call your husband. "Honey, darling, so and so that happened yesterday, or 5 minutes ago, or 10 minutes ago. I wasn't happy with it. This is how it made me feel. And I felt like this is how you meant it." And then he will be able to tell you whatever is going on, and you'll be able to resolve the issue. Don't resort to, what do they call this thing? Silent treatment. Don't go frowning your face and giving an attitude and acting like you're so angry, and yet you're not ready to talk. They're meant to, sometimes even the way that you ask, "What is it?" will even make the woman more angry, because most of the time you take it so lightly. If you see that somebody is upset, at least be a little compassionate. Be like, "Oh, honey, why are you upset?" Be a little compassionate. Don't be like, "Hey, why are you frowning? What's wrong?" That is so unfair. And sometimes that is why the women don't give you answers, because you are even making it worse. So women, if you're upset about something, come out and say it. Go straight to the point, explain what it is, have a discussion about it so that you can move on. Do not resort to silent treatment for days, frowning, giving attitude, especially when you have kids, because when you have kids, most of the time you need to be running errands together, you need to coordinate, somebody has to pick the kids, somebody has to make sure the kids are fine. If you are not talking and you are sulking all day, how are you going to get your stuff done? You'll be wasting time, you'll be causing unnecessary tension. If you're upset about something, come out and say it. Have a discussion about it. Even if he doesn't apologize, at least he knows exactly why you're angry. And if he wants peace, he himself, he knows what to do, right? And you got to be fair. You can't always be sulking about every little thing, because too many little things happen in a day. If you're spending most of the time being angry with each other, how are you going to enjoy your marriage? And that takes me to another point, that no matter what, there will be conflict in marriage. Why? Because just the fact that it's a man married to a woman, we think differently. Men think differently from women. So even when you both have the best intentions, a lot of times things go wrong. And they go wrong because you're being judged by somebody who is opposite. If you were both men, whatever you did may not be wrong. If you were both women, whatever you did may not be wrong. But because marriage is for men and women are different, things will always look different on each side. So when you have conflict, approach it with the intention that the other person probably meant no harm. Don't judge the other person guilty even before you are able to have a discussion with them, because that will make you go into the discussion with anger. That will make you come into the whole discussion being biased, because you feel like you found the guilty party. So you are more likely to attack. But have it in mind that the other person meant well, just that you are not seeing eye to eye. So you both need to sit down calmly and sort the issue out. But if it happens that you have a heated discussion, if it happens that both of you get angry and you start yelling at each other, or you start being angry at each other, whatever that happens, when you're done talking, make it a point to insert some friendly conversation into the equation and just end it. After you finish saying all that you want to say, yeah, you didn't try, you two, you didn't try, you didn't do well, why did you do that, whatever. Once you're done, you can walk away to cool off, or you can just switch the topic. Hey, what are we having for dinner? Or it's time to pick the kids. Let's go together. Or who is going to pick the kids? Try to insert some friendly conversation in there, because one argument shouldn't make you enemies for life, or one argument shouldn't make you not talk to each other for days. Because guess what? You are living under the same roof, and and if you have kids, you need to communicate. So keep your communication lines open. When you have an argument, say what you have to say, end it quickly, and then use some friendly conversation to just redirect yourself. Yeah, we argued. Now we're good. Let's move on with our lives. That's it. If you're a person that holds on so much to every little issue or every issue that you have, it's important that you sit with yourself and try to find out if there are some issues that you haven't addressed that is making you angry most of the time. If you find yourself angry with your partner all the time, that is not healthy. You need to be able to dig deep and find out the reason and fix it. You cannot stay angry with your partner all the time. That is not healthy. You're going to make yourself miserable in your marriage. So, whatever argument you have, if you have an argument or when you have an argument, say whatever you need to say, and then use friendly conversation to just end it and walk away. without dragging it for weeks, for months, not talking to each other. That does not help. Okay, so let's look at some red flags in conversation. The first red flag I would like to talk about is withdrawal. Hello, Mr. Baini. Welcome, Sister Pepita. So nice to see you. Yes, the first red flag in communication with married couples is withdrawal. What does withdrawal mean? Sometimes when you're communicating with your partner and you're in the middle of the conversation and then they just decide, okay, do what you want. Or they walk away without telling you that, you know what, I'm getting worked up. Let's talk about this later. Or they just shut down and walk away. Or they are not talking anymore and then they move on. It's like they've withdrawn from the conversation without coming to a compromise or ending the conversation. And that can be very unhealthy for your marriage. When you are having a disagreement and you're not done, it's important that you both sit through it, come to a compromise, or you both decide that, okay, we don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's move on. But it's very unfair for one partner to walk away without saying if or when they're going to be back to finish the conversation. And one funny thing I hear is that some people will follow you to your office to come and finish the conversation with you. Because this is frustrating. Very, very frustrating. You're having a discussion like, okay, I got to go. My time is up. What do you mean your time is up? Be like, okay, I got to go. But this evening when I come back, we'll finish it. Or be like, you know what? I'm getting really heated up right now. Let's finish this conversation tomorrow or next week or later. Whatever it is, let the other person know that you are going to come back to the conversation. Don't just withdraw in the middle of the conversation and walk away. That is unfair and is unhealthy. Another red flag is escalation. Sometimes you bring something up to your partner, and even before you finished explaining yourself, they get angry and then they start shouting and then they start going off on you. So that small thing that you wanted to talk about, now they're raising their voice, they're shouting, they're calling you names. They've escalated the whole thing into something huge. And sometimes it's shocking. This was something simple. How did it get this big? Right off the bat, you're angry. Maybe you have some anger from some previous conversation you had that you haven't resolved. The minute your partner opens their mouth, you're angry. Let's say your wife comes to ask for maybe money for what? Maybe school fees. Immediately, you get angry. You start shouting. This is not a shouting matter. When somebody is having a conversation with you, when your partner is having a conversation with you, it's important that you listen with unbiased ears. Don't immediately get angry and start shouting. Don't escalate the matter. That is unhealthy. If you don't understand what they're saying, you can ask for clarification. Ask them to repeat themselves, or you repeat what they said in your own words to make sure you hear them right. There is no need to escalate the conversation or communication. It is unnecessary and it is unhealthy. Another red flag is negative interpretation. Let's say you're talking to your partner and you say something, immediately they have a negative interpretation. Let me give an example. Let's say you tell your partner, oh, honey, I need you to help me out more with the house chores. And immediately they come back like, oh, so you mean I do nothing around the house? You mean I don't do anything here? So I'm useless to you? That kind of thing. Whatever you said, you did not mean all that they are trying to make it mean. If you say something and your partner interprets it negatively, always taking it in the wrong way, that is unhealthy for your marriage. You need to try to understand the person from where they're coming from. And even when you feel like they are saying something negative, it's important that you give them the benefit of the doubt. Ask a follow-up question to make sure that whatever they are saying, that's what they mean. If they confirm that, okay, they meant it in a negative light, then you can take it negatively. But if it's a harmless sentence or harmless query, don't be like, oh, don't interpret it in a bad way. Don't take it from 0 to 100. Maybe, oh, you dropped something on the floor. Oh, so you're saying I'm a dirty person, always making a mess in this house. You're taking it from 0 to 100. Or let's say, oh, you left your plate on the counter. Oh, you're saying I never wash my plates. I never help out around the house. You're taking it from 0 to 100. Whatever they said, you are interpreting it negatively. That is unhealthy, and that is not going to help. Next time your partner wants to talk to you, they'll even be scared because they are afraid of what you would interpret what they said to be. So you need to watch that. The other red flag is invalidation. Invalidation. Let's say your partner tells you something and straight away you say, that doesn't make sense. Who do you think you are? You don't even understand what you are saying. So it's like you're trying to use belittling words for something that your partner said. That is so inappropriate. That is so unhealthy. It's like you're trying to beat your partner down with your words. You're trying to belittle your partner so much that they are even afraid to express themselves. That is so unhealthy. You need to be able to communicate with your partner in a healthy manner. Avoid the red flags of communication. The last part is one thing that they call gaslighting. Gaslighting has become very popular in recent times because a lot of people are bringing such material to light. I'm not going to go a lot into gaslighting. You can Google it, read up a little bit on it. But when you're communicating with your partner and he or she uses phrases like, I did that because I love you. Let's say you bring up something that you are upset about or you are unhappy about. Usually it's something negative, right? You bring up something you're happy about or you're upset about. Then your partner says, oh, I did that because I love you. Or they say, I don't know why you're making such a huge deal of this. Or you're being overly sensitive. You're being dramatic. You are the issue, not me. If you loved me, you wouldn't say that. If you love me, you do this and this, or you're crazy. When you keep hearing phrases like this, be very careful. Your partner is being toxic. Your partner is trying to avoid being accountable. They are trying to hide something. They are trying to blame the issue on you, even though they are the ones that did wrong. And if a partner communicates with you in such a manner, you should be very careful. Because if they are willing to go to such lengths to hide what they did, then you must know that they are probably doing a lot of stuff they shouldn't be doing. This should make you want to dig further into your marriage or your relationship and find out what is wrong and try to fix it, because this is very serious. If you want to learn more about gaslighting, just Google it. There's a lot of materials on it. You can educate yourself some more and be able to learn some more. So that is a lot on communication. And at this point, if anybody has any questions, you can just type it in. We will start talking about it. We'll start trying to answer it. and then we'll take it from there. I appreciate you so much for joining the line. This is a good time for questions. Just type in your questions. And if there's any comment you want to make, I want to see it. So just as you're here, surprise me. Just communicate back to me so that it will not just be me talking, and talking. Yep. Please come with your questions. If there's something that I say that you do not agree with, you can bring it up and then we will all share. So, in a nutshell, we just said that men and women communicate differently. Men like to stick to the facts. Women like to tell long stories because we just want to feel close to you. Men like to keep to the facts because they just want to get the job done, decide quickly, and move on. And we said that it's important that you know when to be able to tell stories and when to stick to the facts, especially for the women. And we also said that the men also need to know when to just listen and allow the women to vent. And we said that you can use friendly communication just to say banter, chit chat, and you can also use compassionate communication when you want to focus on the other person. You want to show concern. And Amma said, why do some men like talking, or why do some men don't like talking? Well, to be honest with you, a lot of men do not like talking. And this is a huge problem. Thank you so much, Amma, for bringing that up. You see, a lot of women get into trouble for communicating too much. But the problem is that the men will not say anything. And they have sayings like, yeah, it's the man. Let me say it in a can and then translate. They say that Bema or Donne na Senere dia or Dinenisheno. If I've offended you, why aren't you telling me? If I did something you did not like, why aren't you speaking up? Men, this is so frustrating. You see, if you were communicating more, you would understand that communication is hard. And you wouldn't blame women so much for being disrespectful and talking too much. You would appreciate our struggle. A lot of men do not like to talk. They like to bottle things inside. Because, in a way, I guess men feel that if they are complaining about something that you did, then they are being petty. That is not being petty. Because for me, if I offend you and you don't tell me, I feel like, okay, for all these years, this thing that I did bothered you, but you never said a word. It feels like you betrayed me. So, men, we know that you do not like to talk a lot, especially when it's about personal stuff. But we need to know what is going on in your head. We cannot crack it open to find out. The only way we can get to know is when you say something. Please, when your wives offend you, find a way to communicate it to her. Some men will not say anything. And then when you bring up something that, oh, honey, you did this, and I didn't like it, then they'll be like, yes, you too, you did the same thing 10 years ago and I didn't say anything. So why are you complaining? That is not fair. Please, men, try to talk to your wives. Because if you don't talk, we will talk for both of us. And that is where the problems come. Please, we know that it doesn't come naturally to you. And we know that most of the time you don't like it because you may seem petty. But we also need you to speak up so that we know what is going on. And we also feel like you care enough to bring it up to us. Mr. Baini says, we hear, please hear me and talk. Please talk. Yes, men, try to say something. It will surprise you to know that a lot of women find out for the first time the issues they have in their marriage when they talk to a third party, or maybe they go to a marriage counselor, because the whole time they were sitting at home with their husband, he never said anything. Men, please, that is unfair. Please find a way to tell us. And women, when your husband is trying to talk, don't shut him down. Don't overtalk him. You wait for him to talk, because if you start anything, they might withdraw and stop talking. So men, stop using withdrawal against us. Communicate with us. And also, when we want to vent, listen. And women, one thing that is good to do is have your girlfriends around you. Cultivate your relationship with your girlfriends so that when you just need to vent, when you just need to talk, you can have somebody to talk to. Don't save all your communication for your husband, because men don't make good friends. When you're a woman, you need a woman friend. When you're a man, you need a man friend, so that you can go and do men stuff, and you too, you can go and do women stuff. But please be careful who you have in your inner circle, because if there is one gossip in there, all your filler will go to Facebook, all your filler will go to WhatsApp. So be careful who you have around you, but keep your girlfriends close so that you can go and vent to your boyfriend. Sister Elsie says, speaking about what bothers you in a godly manner will solve about 95% of all marital problems. Oh, Sister Elsie, God bless you for writing all of that out. I think all of us should just take a screenshot, paste it above our beds, so that we know that if I have an issue with my partner, I need to tell her. It's extremely painful that you'll be there and then one marriage counselor from your church will call you. Oh, Mr. So and so, or Mrs. So and so, your husband came here and I need to speak to you. Can you come? And then you go and sit down. And then Mr. Marriage Counselor or Mrs. Marriage Counselor will be like, your husband said that this and this and this and this. The first thing that will come to your mind is, so this man, I've been sleeping with him in the same bed. He had all this and he couldn't tell me. It makes your partner feel bad. It makes him or her feel that maybe they are not approachable, or you cannot trust them, or you don't care to speak to them. They are right there beside you. Why can't you tell them? It feels like you are reporting them to a third party. So at least you try first. Try first time, it doesn't work. Try another approach, it doesn't work. Then you are free to report them to Mr. or Mrs. Marriage Counselor. But please speak to your partner first before you go out with your issues, because a lot of them can be solved between the two of you. You see, sometimes when you go before marriage counselors, right, the person who is more eloquent will win the case, even though they might be the offending party. And people who know how to present their case, they'll always win. Meanwhile, between the two of you, you know which one did the evil. This is going to cause a lot of resentment between the two of you. So if there's any matter, please speak to your partner first. And if you think communicating with your partner is difficult, we've learned a whole lot of things tonight. Aman said that a lot of people report you without talking to you first. Yeah, that's what we are talking about. Please, if I offend you, where's my husband? My husband, if I offend you, come and talk to me first. Don't go and report me so that I go and hear it from outside. That would be unfair. And my husband too is saying that, my wife, if I offend you, talk to me first. If you talk to me and it doesn't work out, then you can report me to an outside person. A lot of the issues can be solved between the two of you. Please talk to each other. And if you want your partner to speak to you more, make yourself more approachable. When they approach you, don't meet them with anger. When they approach you, don't walk away. When they approach you, don't tell them, okay, do what you like. Give them feedback. Come to a compromise. Whatever they are telling you, take it seriously. Let them know that What they have to say is important to you, and act on it. And to be honest, a lot of times what you think is unnecessary or is little is not so little. It matters to the other person. It's very important to the other person. So if your husband says this is important to me and you think it's unnecessary, you still have to take it seriously because he said this is important to me. If your wife says this is important to me, take her seriously because she says it's important to her. Whether you agree or not is not the matter because from the get go, you know that men and women are different. Different things matter to men, different things matter to women. Just because it doesn't matter to you does not mean it's nonsense. Take your partner seriously because if you do, they will keep coming to you. They will keep talking to you, and your marriage issues can be solved at home instead of always reporting to a third party. It's true that third parties need to come in when things are not going well for a long time. You've tried everything and it's not working. You cannot say that third parties are wrong, but you don't need to use them every single time. There are a lot of issues you can solve between the two of you. All you have to do is communicate. And tonight we have learned a few things that will help us communicate better. Please put that into practice. Work on it. Sometimes when you're trying to build better habits, they don't happen immediately. You will try for a while, you fine tune it until you find your sweet spot, until you find it working smoothly. Don't give up on communication. You really need to get your communication right so that you can talk to each other, so that you can be on one page, so that you can be honest with each other and enjoy your marriage better. So, looks like that will be it for communication tonight. I hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions, you can leave it on the chat. You can leave it on the Facebook or YouTube. We'll come back to it and then answer it and maybe bring you more answers next week. So, next week, we're going to talk about finances, how to handle finances in marriage. So I know finances is a huge deal, and most of the time, finances can make or break your marriage, and they will affect the future of your family. Sister also says it's very painful when you have to hear about your partner's hurt or problem from a third party. Sister Elsie, I'm right there with you. It is very, 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 very painful. It feels like betrayal. So that next time your partner is even smiling at you, you are wondering, is the partner truly happy or they are hiding something so that the next time you are going to hear it from somewhere else? Please, partners, don't let your partner hear about issues from a third party. And yes, if you've tried, and it's not working, report them for sure. I agree with you. If you've been talked to a lot and you're not hearing, you'll be reported. But don't let the first time that your partner hears about your hurt be from a third party. It is betrayal and it hurts. So please talk to your partner. Use the tools we've learned tonight, practice it, let it become part of your life. And don't forget the verses. Colossians 4, verse 6, Proverbs 15, verse 1. Go back and check up on it. So next week, we're going to talk about finances. And until then, may God bless your marriage. And remember that it takes a good Christian to have a good Christian marriage. May God bless you all. Have a wonderful week and communicate with your partners. Thank you. Have a great week. Goodbye.